this was the week where a massive snowstorm caused major power outages and water shortages throughout Texas. Millions of Texans were left without power and clean water when thermal power plants powered by natural gas and water systems froze, which meant residents were freezing to death, and others had to do things like melt snow in order to flush their toilets. Now, I don't want to politicize this moment, okay? But if we want to survive, we have to. So let me just say that it's very, very ironic that we're always told that socialism will lead to gas shortages and lines for fuel and water and empty shelves, but capitalism did that in 4 days. Texas has deregulated its energy system. It's separate from the rest of the United States, if you didn't know. And that allows companies to avoid regulation that would have required it to account for these kinds of emergency situations, which means that instead the costs are thrust onto consumers. And so just concretely in 5 days, that has meant that Texans who've been without power and like burning their own furniture for warmth are facing electricity bills up to $10,000. But with socialism, under socialism, I'm just being a constipated libertarian. Like clockwork, lawmakers like Governor Greg Abbott and former Governor Rick Perry and Representative Dan Crenshaw and right-wing pundits are blaming Texas's problem on the small amount of wind power that the state has, including this like bizarre bending of time and blaming the Green New Deal as if that's like. I'm surprised they're not claiming that like AOC dancing in college was somehow generating the green energy to then incept a Green New Deal. Like, what the fuck? The only renewable power these guys believe in is white power. Okay. And if we could turn white power into fuel, we might have real bipartisanship. Mike?
What struck me about, obviously, it's entirely terrible. And I'm also frustrated with the people who are ostensibly, whether you say left, center, left, or liberal, who are kind of gleeful about it. That's like, yeah, kind of shitty. The bill thing, for some reason, I'm not surprised that Texas has a shitty power distribution system. It makes total sense on how bad the state's run. But what has surprised me was the pricing thing. I was not aware of that. I was not aware that you could have your electricity prices directly connected to the market price, which sounds like Bitcoin. Like, I don't understand. Like, and I was reading an article, and the article's like, well, it can be a great deal because when Texans aren't using electricity, then their costs go down significantly. And I'm like, but have none of you been to a casino? What are you doing?
Right. No, this could go real bad real soon. Oh. And that's the thing is like, I think some of them are going to get relief for those bills, but a lot of people are not. Yeah. So yeah, fuck that. Don't pay. Bill strike. Of course, Mike, the best part of this, and we got to talk about it, the best part of the storyline, like I'm not gleeful about anything except for this one thing, which is the Texas Senator, Ted Cruz.
Oh boy.
Who just, oh my God. Usually, you know, straight white men are so good at failing upwards. And I just, it's really hard to see how he's going to fail up on this one. So the Texas senator, if you guys weren't paying attention, did what any self-preserving larva in a flesh suit would do and flew his family to Cancun to escape the snowstorm, leaving behind his dog, Snowflake. That's right. The dog's name is Snowflake, even though Ted Cruz was the one acting like a fragile bitch. Like, amazing irony. So Cruz is now, though, back home in Texas. He flew back in time to walk his dog. Meanwhile, AOC is also in Texas in time to walk Ted Cruz like a dog, both raising over $3 million for relief efforts, but also like showing leadership like this.
Disasters don't strike everyone equally. When you already have so many families in the state and across the country that are on the brink, that can't even afford an emergency to begin with, when you have a disaster like this, it can just set people back for years, not just for days. And so we have tragedy in this state. We need to rally around the state. We need to rally federal support for Texans and the state of Texas. And we need to make sure that we make short and long-term policy decisions so that this kind of devastation, preventable devastation, never happens again.
That was also followed up, and the dog walking thing with Ted. The Ted Cruz AOC battle on Twitter is like, Ted needs to just pack it up. Like, at what point, Mike, you're on Twitter all the time. Yeah. Like, at what point are you like, okay, I'm heavily owned, sitting this one out. I just want to read you this as you think. So look, so she writes, if Senator Ted Cruz had resigned back in January after helping gin up a violent insurrection that killed several people, he could have taken his vacation in peace. Texans should continue to demand his resignation.
God. Just like, she keeps killing him and he's already dead. You know what? I think for him, like, And this, I don't know if this is me knowing the cartoon character of him we've created or if this is actually him, but he feels like someone who can only get a response from someone if they hate him. Like, have you ever had like a romantic partner or a friend who like, they didn't know how to communicate, so they had to like piss you off, and then you'd have a conversation. You're like, oh, you don't know how to get to something positively. And I wonder if
you need to create drama. Yeah, you're just addicted to the drama.
And I think he's been hated his whole life. And he's like, oh, I'm like this weaselly direct-to-video villain. And so people, like, maybe if I get AOC mad, people will listen. Or like Seth Rogen. He fights with Seth Rogen. And Seth Rogen, again, fucking destroys him. Ron Perlman destroyed him.
Yeah, it's his kink at this point, right? Like, he's into it. He just own me, daddy.
But it's almost like, and this isn't quite fair, but it's almost like, I mean, not fair to the example I'm giving, not to him. It's almost like it's someone it's almost like a nerd who's not being bullied, punching himself in the face and going, look how bullied I am. Yeah. You know, like, I mean, Ted Cruz look, I'm a nerd, but Ted Cruz is a fucking nerd. But like, I think he's someone who like needs to be bullied for him to have that identity. Like, that's a kind of a shitty nerd dude thing to do sometimes, where you're like, I don't have I'm the good guy without me being like bullied by Hollywood.
Yeah. No, but he's a free market nerd. Like, I think that nerds, there's like cultural nerds who are like, you know, into comics and whatever. And that's like cool again and fine. Right. And yay, embrace that. But like the free market nerds, like the Ben Shapiros and the Ted Cruzes, are the fucking worst. And they're so disingenuous. Yeah. Anyway. And also, just to your point of how much you can be hated is, you know, the leaked group texts that Heidi, his wife, sent to his friend, like, hey, does anyone like kind of called? Or anyway, question mark. This is like, first of all, I know it's funny, but also we've all kind of been there, and they're like, who wants to hang out with me? Like, what's up? You know, like, there's a lot of we've all sort of been there, but also how many of us would have our friends actually leak to the media, our group texts? I mean, wow.
You know you're hated. Like, you're hated.
Such a pariah. And they were like, even like, we've got gas, but yeah. Well, my God. And this is the thing is like, I think with this, there's such a moment, and, you know, Beto O'Rourke and AOC are doing a good job, I think, of utilizing this moment. But I really wish Biden would get his ass down there, because it's such a moment to score these political points. I mean, I know he's already dead, but like, just kick Ted Cruz a little more. Like, let's not forget this. Like, utilize this. Stand on I don't know, fucking start a fire. You know, can you imagine just like an old Biden just like creating a hearth and having like children gathering around? Like, it's a great.
Which he'd probably love. Like, he would love that. Exactly.
He just wants to be a grandfather, and somehow we made him president also.
I'm glad that he won versus Trump, but it's definitely times when I'm like, oh right, Joe Biden's president. Like, it's no longer like what is for the last 4 years. We're like, oh man, I almost forgot. And now it's almost like, all right, Joe Biden.
Oh yeah, that guy.
That? You know what I mean?
How's he doing? Oh, not good. Right. That makes sense. Is everything less on fire? Okay.
All right. Good.
Yeah. Right. Oh my God. No, I can only listen to him. I love the way that the media like chops up his sound bites, because he doesn't have any. So they're just like, all right, we're helping him out. We're going to Frankenstein this. And here you go. I think this was a sentence. Hey, thanks so much for watching the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. And while you're here, why don't you just subscribe to this channel? I promise it'll be good.